Hello. Hello. Doris, you're muted. Hi, Esther. Hi, Esther. How are you? Sarah, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Awesome. These are the slides that I'm going to show.
Okay.
Just a little bit of an agenda, a little bit of me, then introducing you, and then I will stop here, stop sharing my screen, and here's the QR code for them to fill out, which I will put in the tab. Not only
Okay.
that, but also the link to the evaluation.
Okay. I do have a couple of like a presentation I put together. Did you want me to send that to you or?
Nope, I will make you a co-host right now so that you can share your screen. There,
It's great.
you're now co-host, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have people attending, coming into the room. I let a person, Lawrence, in, so we'll begin in just a little bit.
Sounds good. Great.
Need to start letting people in, and you can have a chit chat with them.
Okay. Yes, that's fine.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. We will begin at the top of the hour, so hang with us and tell us where you're calling us from, please. Write that in the chat. Hello, Jacqueline. We will begin at the top of the hour. We have the presenter here, Esther Casas. You please can tell us in the chat where you're calling us from. I'll begin. Oh, Pitt, awesome.
Mhm.
Hey, Jackie, thank you for that info.
Okay.
HD, in what, Jackie? Bioengineering, that is awesome. Hello, Ulises. We'll begin at the top of the hour. Just hang in there. Please tell us where you're calling us from. And we'll begin promptly at 7. Thank you. I mean, at 6, not 7, at 6. I'm so confused.
It's been a long day, so whatever way it goes, whatever time it may be.
Yeah, the program is from 6 to 7, so we'll start at 6. Oh, Lordy, where's my head?
Right.
Thank you all for coming in so early. I appreciate that. Please write on the chat where you're calling us from. And so there were like 200 people registered. Hopefully, we get a good attendance here.
Hopefully. We advertised it quite a bit, so hopefully.
We're at 5:53. We'll begin at 6. So hang up and there for a little bit longer. But if you need to take a bio break or get some water, now's the time. Awesome, Esther. We're in Texas, where it's steamy these days. Is it very hot right now?
Um, high 90s. It's not quite 100, so it's good.
Agreed.
Got to be thankful for every degree you get.
Absolutely.
Or don't get, I guess I should say.
You see me looking to the side is I have two screens where I'm allowing people in. So my apologies if that distracts you, but it's the way that I can manage the programming today.
Yeah.
Carlos, welcome. Please hang in there. We will begin promptly at 6. Thank you for coming in early. And please tell us where you're calling us from in the chat. Oh, down at
Down
there.
there.
Awesome. I want to apologize to all of you beforehand. I have two chihuahuas that when I get on doing these events, they, for some reason, start barking. So if that happens, my most sincere apologies.
Carlos, welcome. Where are you from?
I'm out of the the Maryland area, the greater Baltimore slash DC area.
Yeah, I live in Alexander, Virginia myself, so hi, neighbor.
Hi. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everybody, for calling us so early. I appreciate each one of you. Ramon, tell us where you are calling us from, and welcome. Write it in the chat or unmute yourself. Mister, in your bio, you wrote that you were showcased in the One Focus, but it says RTN. Is it supposed to be RTX?
No, so it used to be one RTN used Raytheon on the Raytheon side, so it was prior to us becoming RTX.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
I wanted to make sure that.
yeah, we've been through a couple of changes, so
Keeps you on your
Hard to-
toes.
yeah, hard to keep track lately.
Yeah, we're 5:57. We'll begin at 6. Our incredible speaker, Esther Casas. So hang in there. If you need to get some water, now's the time to do so. Summer, Guerrero, welcome. We will begin promptly. Please tell us where you're calling us from. Write it in the chat or mute yourself. Hello, everybody who's just joining us. We will begin promptly at 6. So thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Yes, sweetie, I'm here. Thank you. It's just like a training, so.
Turn your lights on so you're not in the dark.
You can mute your. Thank you. Appreciate you all coming in so early. We are 1 minute away to begin this wonderful presentation. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us. Okay, 6 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We'll begin now this presentation by RTX, Tips for Effective Team, presented by this great company. So this is our agenda for today. Let me continue to admit with that for my delay. Okay, so we will do a speaker introduction, and then I will tell you the events that we are having, and we'll go to the presentation, and then evaluation of the event. I will put the QR code and the link. Please provide us your feedback. That only helps us to improve events that we host for you. Oops. So that being said, my name is Ana Rodriguez. I am currently responsible for the content of our events in the Research and Impact Office. I have a doctorate degree from humanities in organizational development and training. I've been working as a member for 5 years at Shift. And I was gifted a membership last year, and one of my passions is to cook. So I hope to see you all at convention if you're coming. Let me tell you a little bit about Esther. Esther has worked with RTX for 18 years of increasing responsibility. She started as a software combat systems, moved into hardware quality, and now has completed year 1 with the Collins Aerospace as Associate Director of Supplier Quality for Mission Systems. Prior to RTX, Esther medical device industry automated processes and systems that resulted in cost savings. She also rolled out various initiatives and implemented process improvements to bring businesses compliant with FDA. Esther,
The curing cycles, they look.
please mute
Uh-huh.
your- please
Do
mute-
that for reference, either in the same folder location or an email. Yeah. Stated 3.
Thank you. Esther received her Bachelor's of Science degree in Engineering Technology, Texas A&M University, specializing in manufacturing, and Masters of Science in Engineering Management, Southern Methodist University. Can you please mute yourselves? Esther currently serves as the full chair for the Hispanic Organization for Leadership and Advancement, HOLA, at RTX Employee Resource. Been recognized by great minds in STEM, as a luminary of
The meeting.
her RTX.
My name is Esther.
We want one diaper or this? Technically, better.
Some diaper, if you buy one. I just want.
Uh,
You're muted right now.
Oops.
Oh.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, sorry, I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you. So Space and Urban Systems, she's fond of volunteering throughout the community and promoting STEM. Esther enjoys being with her 3 kids, who are her biggest cheerleaders. She enjoys sports, traveling, and live music. Without further ado, I want to leave you with her, but please, we are still trying to ascertain who's going to be the speaker for our September LatinX Factor, so make sure you know so that you can get those news immediately. Now, without further ado, I'll stop sharing my screen and I will leave you with Casas. Go ahead, Esther.
Thank you. Nice to meet everybody. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen and start rocking and rolling. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay. Esther Casas,
Yep.
my name is Esther Casas. Anna introduced me. Very glad to be here with you guys today. Excited to present a little bit on effective networking today. A little bit about myself is I am Mexican-American, born and raised in El Paso, Texas, BS from Texas A&M, MS from Southern Methodist University. A little bit about my career path is I started off in the medical device industry and then moved into Raytheon and have been in defense ever, for the last 18 years. Some of the things I like about RTX is the flexibility, work-life balance. We have very good and strong employee resource groups that actually contribute to the business, and the business gives us a voice and listens and hears our voice, as well as the opportunities they provide in and out of the workplace, especially with the Hispanic community, able to promote and network with and really grow our community. I love the outdoors, reading, traveling, concerts, and love being around my family and my kids. Who are we as far as RTX is concerned? We have about 185,000 employees across the country and across the world. We're composed of 3 companies: Collins Aerospace, Pratt and Whitney, and Raytheon. A second doesn't go by where an aircraft carrying RTX technology doesn't take flight. 90% of our defense and commercial launches are supported by our parts. And about 50% of the world's population is protected by our defense system. So not only do we provide military products for the United States, but as well as our allies. So today I'm going to talk about effective networking, going beyond the elevator speech. I'm going to talk about how you prepare ahead for it, how to present yourself, ask the questions, grow your network, and how to exit once you've started networking in the conversation. So preparing ahead, you want to know who's attending the event, who do you meet at the event, what is the event about, and is someone else attending? Who is attending the event is really important. One of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to treat this like speed dating. You don't want to go pitching every 5 minutes from person to person to person. You want to see who's going to attend the event if you can ahead of, and plan how many people you want to meet, and be very specific and attentive as to who you want to meet so that you can make sure that your conversation isn't very sales pitchy, but that it is very genuine. What is the event about? One of the things that you can do small talk with and actually that icebreaker is talking about the event. So it's important that you know what the event is about, the agenda of the event, and the purpose of the event. Sometimes networking can be very difficult for a lot of folks, so it is very important that if you can, you bring someone else with you to the event, or maybe the attendee list and see who else is going to be attending that you know, because this helps with ice breaking, and it also helps you work the room. Sometimes when you have an ally with you or partner in crime, you guys can work the room together and break the ice together. And if someone is doesn't know, do a little bit of small talk, maybe one of you is more prepared with small talk and the other one's more prepared with quote unquote deep talk, then you guys can feed off of each other, really help work the network situation. Present yourself. How are you going to present yourself? This is going beyond the elevator speech. You don't just want to introduce yourself with your name and your job title. One of the things you want to do is go one step ahead, go beyond that job title, maybe give a little bit of specifics on a project that you're working on that might interest the person that you're trying to meet or network with. A project that they are familiar with, a program they're familiar with, or maybe do a little bit of research ahead of time and know what their favorite team is or sports, but you want to go beyond just your job title. You don't want to just say, hi, I'm Mr. Casas, Associate Director of Supplier Quality. You want to make sure and say, I'm working on this, and it may is something that may interest them. One of the things that's really important to keep in mind is to introduce yourself as an equal. You're not necessarily a fan. You're definitely an equal. You work in the same place. They may be a director or a vice president, but they are still a human being at the end of the day. So while you may be a fan, it's important that you go in with confidence enough to know that you're both there to genuinely get out of this. You want to be authentic, and you don't want to seem very optimistic. Or opportunistic. I mean, you don't want to go in there with a sales pitch. You genuine, and you want to start building a relationship. So that is what networking is about, is being genuine and building relationships, long-term relationships. So try not to be afraid of saying something wrong, stumbling over your words. They are an equal that you're there to have a conversation with. So think about it. If you're going in and you're stumbling over your words and you're extremely nervous, it might create a little bit of tension. And if people, start feeling uncomfortable in intense situations. So you want to try to be as cool, calm, and collective as you can be, authentic, and be yourself, because confidence does go a long ways. You also want to make sure that while networking helps land jobs and gain opportunities, people still want to be treated as a human being. So you want to not approach it in an opportunistic type of way. Ask questions. So part of networking is building relationships, not contacts. This is for your personal growth. Networking, not just to land a job or to, you don't just want it to be small talk all the time. You want to move from small talk to deep talk. You want to build those genuine connections. Part of networking is exchanging knowledge. This treated as an opportunity where everyone is gaining something from it. It's a win-win situation where you can learn from others, ask questions that will give you information you've been looking for, whether it's about a business, a project, a program, a person. A lot of growth and knowledge that goes into networking also leads to collaborative opportunities. When you find that you're both looking to gain not necessarily gain as far as a job, but gain as a relationship that you can take to the next level and be able to collaborate more because now you've gotten to know this person, and other opportunities can arise than just finding a job or a better pay type situation. It's really important that during networking, you do active listening and understanding. Again, offer thoughtful responses. People are going to remember this. So you want to make sure that you leave a good impression. This is where you start building that relationship. So when you offer thoughtful responses, they're more than likely to keep talking to you, asking you more questions, and allowing that conversation to grow and really build something from it. One of the things to keep in mind is quality, not quantity. You don't want to, and not the speed dating thing. You don't want to go in there and meet 100 people in 2 hours. You want to make it be a genuine connection. So you want to come home with something. You want to get something out of the networking experience. So you don't necessarily want to come back and say, I met 100 people, but really didn't get to know any of them and have nothing to move forward with that one event. So definitely keep quality versus quantity in mind. And some of the questions, I think what happens a lot of time with networking and where people get stuck on networking is, where do I go beyond the introduction? How do I keep the conversation going? How do I genuinely start building this connection? So some key questions that I share here are questions to kind of keep the conversation going after you've introduced yourself and started and finished your elevator speech. Remember, these are human beings. We're all on the same page. We're all here to get to know each other and get to know others. Simple questions as, hey, what's the highlight of your week? What do you think you're doing well? What's your what's your favorite sport? What's your favorite sports team? What's the most interesting thing to you lately? And sometimes if it's, I know sometimes it could be a CEO that you're trying to meet or someone that, hey, it's someone that you're really trying to connect to. You can go through and see if you're a younger employee that's just getting started, ask about their roles, what was critical about their journey, what helped shape, where they're at now. Maybe one of the most daring things they've done in their career. It helps loosen them up a little bit, and it really takes the mind off of you just trying to plan and sell a pitch. It really makes them feel like they're getting to know someone beyond the sales pitch. Once you get started, get going on the conversation, how do you exit the conversation? How do you say bye? How do you end it? One of the things to do is to exit gracefully. It's not speed dating. You want to make sure and say, thank you for your time. It was nice meeting you. You want to make sure that you can, and actually, I think I've skipped this slide. You want to grow your network. One of the ways you can grow your network before you're exiting the conversation is follow up, try to get contact information. And once you get the contact information, follow up. Remember small details that were given during the conversation. One of the things with networking is it is a two-way street. It is not a one-way street. You can't leave the networking situation and expect them to contact you. They have met probably 10 times more people than you have during that one event. So you want to make sure that you're mindful and remember. And if it is a connection that you think went well, make sure you reach back out and put in a little bit of the details that go into them recognizing who you were and who you are so they can continue that conversation. And one of the ways to grow your network is to join either internal groups within your job. At RTX, we have employee resource groups. We also have technology groups that you can have similar interests with. If you have similar interests with people, it kind of helps and builds that network more. We also have external groups you can join. SHIP is a great external organization and a great way to network. IEEE, ASQ, these are all different networks you can use to build that network. But again, while trying to grow your career, you need to grow your network, you need to make sure you ask for that contact information to be able to reach back out. And then exiting, how do you exit the network situation? One, exit gracefully. It's not speed dating. You want to, thank them for their time. Bring something up that you liked, that, you really enjoyed about the conversation. And one of the things to keep in mind is that they don't always go very smoothly. Sometimes it could be a negative outcome in the situation, and understand not all the relationships are going to work. Maybe you just don't have the connection. You're not always going to connect with everyone, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with not having a specific connection. You don't want to keep dwelling on that either, because you want to make sure that you're able to come back with the same confidence for the next time you come and start networking, and for the next person you're going to go talk to. You don't want to dwell on the negative and say, oh, it's going to be horrible, not a lot of, no one likes me type thing. Because one of the things we do have as far as humans are concerned is we want to be liked, we want to be accepted. And sometimes we feel and get that satisfaction from the number of friends we may have, or the number of people we talk to, or the number of contacts we have, especially nowadays in social media. Sometimes that tends to influence that. But again, we're trying to look at quality and not quantity. It doesn't matter that this one didn't work. Let's move on to the next one. And another way to exit is to introduce introduce folks, pay it forward. You've met this great person. I'm having this great conversation with Chris Callio and it's going great. And you want to be able to give that opportunity to someone else as well. Hey, there's someone walking by in the room. Come here, Anna, let me introduce you to Chris. Do you know Chris yet? You know, and be mindful of that and always be looking to pay it forward. One of the great connections that we have is SHIP. You have SHIP local chapters, SHIP professional chapters. And this is a great opportunity to be able to pay it forward. If you are at a conference, for example, the national conference is coming, and you remember you've met me, for example, I've been to national conference several times, you've met me, and you're coming up to me saying hello, and one of your coworkers or one of your one of your friends, a student comes by, hey, let me introduce you to Esther. She works with RTX. They're looking for, if you know what kind of job they're looking for and you know this other person's looking for it, it's a great way to network. We do that within our employee resource groups all the time. The position I'm in is because I was networking with someone who happened to ask what I'm doing, and I mentioned that I was looking for another opportunity. And so we are networking all the time. And understand, again, not all relationships are going to work out. You're not going to get along with everyone. The ones that you do find that connection with, it's important to keep. So key takeaway. The first initial network meeting, this sets the tone for future discussions, which is why the questions. You want to make sure you ask open-ended questions. You want to make sure you're not just pitching to 100 people. You want to pitch to 10 people that you want to build a genuine connection with. This sets the tone for the future. This sets the tone for future discussions. This is how folks are going to remember you. And those small little things, those small little details that you remember about someone else is what makes the future connection stronger. Remember, it's quality, not quantity. We want to build genuine connections. You want this to go beyond that initial meeting, and you want it to grow. You want to have opportunities of collaborating with others, whether it be at work or outside of work. You want to have the opportunity to grow and learn. You want to exchange knowledge. You want to provide them with information that is good for them and having them learn something. And you want to listen and understand so that you're gaining some knowledge as well. It's really important that this becomes a genuine exchange of knowledge. This is a personal growth thing. Follow up, with a small email, a text. Nowadays, it's easy to follow up in LinkedIn. Send them a friend request, message them. It's very easy to follow up nowadays. We have a lot of different type of technology that we can use to follow up on the conversation. Understand that not all relationships are going to work out. Not all of your networking situations are going to work out. Some of them may last a minute, and that's how you know, hey, this conversation's going nowhere. Let me go to the next person. But you can connect with at least one person. That's great. And then introduce folks. Make sure you pay it forward. Bring your connection. If you're going to dinner and you want to meet, let's say you're going to be in town. I live in Texas in the Dallas area. I can say, hey, I'm going to be in California in the LA area for the SHIP National Conference. I have a couple of, other people, other friends that I'm going to meet for dinner one night, and we have other SHIP attendees. Do you want to come to dinner? Introduce them. That's a way to network. You don't have to go to a formal event to network, but introduce folks and pay it forward. questions? I know I might have gone through this a little fast.
Hello, everyone. This is a time for you to unmute yourselves and ask all the questions. I see a question on the chat.
On the chat.
Yeah, what are your tips for attending solo? And this comes from Wendy.
Tips for attending solo. Tips for attending solo is really doing your research ahead of time, knowing who's going to be attending and having an idea of who you want to meet. One of the things you need to understand is if you're going to go somewhere where a lot of like CEOs and VPs are going to be present, more than likely they're going to have a long line. Everyone wants to meet them. So one of the tips of attending solo is looking beyond the CEO and the VP and looking at what we call the stragglers, the not so famous folks that you can still network, because at the end of the day, you don't know their relationship with the CEO or VP. And so while they might not be a CEO and a VP, they may be a best friend of a CEO and a VP. And so really going solo is trying to figure out who you want to meet and why you want to meet them. So one of the things to keep in mind as well is the why. Why do I want to meet this person? What do they bring to my learning? What do they bring to, what opportunity am I going to get from meeting this person? And so that's another thing when you're gathering your information and prepping is why do I want to meet that person and what am I going to get out of it? So going solo is not horrible, not a bad thing if you're comfortable enough to start the conversations. And so one of the things I prepare more is just why do I want to meet that person?
Absolutely. Please remember that this is in preparation of our upcoming convention. So you have to have a great game plan. We have another question, Esther. What is the best way to start the conversation? Just with the elevator pitch, or should there be small talk prior to that?
So small talk's very important. Small talk is how you get it going and how it starts. So don't think small talk just needs to be small talk. Small talk can easily move to deep talk when you ask an open-ended question. It doesn't have to be the elevator speech. I would say that especially at the national conference, this is the biggest opportunity you have. You're going to have tons of companies there. And you may not know anything about one of the companies, but you know what? I like the name. Their display looks great. So the small talk can be just, can you tell me a little bit of what you do? Can you tell me a little bit of what your company does? I don't know your company, but I love the display. It could be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be your elevator speech. It could lead to something though. You're on mute, Anna.
Sorry. I have another question from Carlos. Any tips on body language, the handshake, personal space, reading the room?
I know that as Hispanics, we're huggers. We love to hug. We have no personal space. We invade it all the time, but not everyone is like us. So we have to be very cognizant of that. A handshake is always great. You can never go wrong with a handshake. At the end of the conversation, you may end up being a hugger and they may embrace you and pull you in. Go with it, right? The hug is okay. I would always start with a handshake. The handshake, you can never go wrong. It's almost like a sign of respect. And there's nothing wrong with the handshake.
Ibelis Badillo, you have a question? Please unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, hi, I'm Evelise Badillo. My question is business cards. How does it look when you give a business card or when you request a business card?
It's good to ask for business cards. It's a way to make that connection. And giving a business card is not bad either. So when you say you want to follow up, a way to be able to follow up and get some of that information is via business card. I know nowadays everyone has like a QR code scan. Here's my information. You can connect with me. A lot of people have electronic business cards. And so a business card is a good way to be able to follow up and get all the information you need at one time.
I have a comment from Roberto Torres. He says, I've adopted a catchphrase, living the dream, when asked, how are you? It's a very good icebreaker and helps save into something positive that is happening.
Agreed, agreed. And a lot of people sometimes get thrown aback by how are you and don't always know how to react to it, or everyone may say fine, but it's a good open-ended question, and it's a question that you can always follow through with another question, right? How are you? I'm fine. That's great. So today must have been a good day, and it can just kind of keep going from there. So that's a good question.
I also have another question from Alejandra Camacho. Do you have any advice on how to get attendee lists? I found it is usually very difficult to obtain.
A what? Sorry.
Attendee lists.
Attendee lists. Yes, attendee lists are hard to find sometimes. So I will use the SHIP National Conference as an example. You may not be able to find an attendee list, but you will at least know what companies are attending. So you can start with at least doing some research on companies you might be interested in. Other events, the attendee lists, I would start with maybe the speakers that are attending. And that's either one, people you could approach, you could learn more about the speakers and start networking with them, or it would be a way to start a conversation as well. But yes, it is difficult to find attendee lists sometimes, especially if it's bigger events. But if you're doing a smaller event at school or even at work, smaller events, I'm talking about 50 people. Another way to approach it is who is organizing the event. Because one of the ways is the organizers, usually the ones sending out all the information, they may be easier to approach as far as asking them attending. Organizers are always good.
Awesome. I have another question. How does one start the conversation when one, as a Latino, is attending a social event where everyone is not Latino and you do not know anyone there and there are no apparent affinities?
So I think sports is always a good way to start a conversation. It doesn't have to be a cultural conversation. It doesn't always have to be a job conversation. If you don't have that affinity, you don't work for the same company. I would go through sports. What's your favorite sport team? Or something simple as how is your day? Not necessarily how are you doing, but how was your day? Did you have a great day today? Difficult day? And that's very general. And so it allows folks to enter that general safe space, right? It's not specific to something.
Awesome. Sorry, I want to apologize for everybody. There was a person in attendance that had his shirt off and it's kind of bizarre. He's been trying to enter the room again and I am declining his attendance. My apologies for that. Any other questions that you may have, please unmute yourselves. I ran out of the questions that you put in the chat. This is a very safe space.
It is safe. And feel free to reach out at any time for the presentation.
Listen, it's 6:35. You have no idea how fast the time
And
flies. So please unmute yourselves and ask your questions.
Yeah. And I might have rushed through that. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Please, anybody? Oh, Victor is very uncomfortable talking to new people. Do you have any tips?
I think when you become more familiar with a little bit about folks, it's hard sometimes if you're a little introverted or sometimes when you come, I think that's where preparation is important, right? Because when you're prepared, you feel less stress, you feel less nervous and a little more comfortable. So that's when you look into what is the event about, come prepared with what the event is about and who you want to meet, and do a little bit of research on who you want to meet. Nowadays you can Google almost anyone and get a little bit about them, whether it be good or bad. But it's good when you come more prepared. It brings a little bit more comfort.
Absolutely. Thank you, Esther. How do you get out of your comfort zone to network if you're naturally a very introverted individual and not extroverted? How do you get out of that stance?
So one of the tips I have, so my daughter is very introverted, and I've noticed that there's always the one extrovert that kind of brings her along, right? So my trip, like my suggestion is find your one friend that will talk to everyone and anyone. Bring them along with you, and they will start the conversation more than likely for you, and then you'll be able to go from there. And don't be afraid to bring someone along with you to any event. It could be someone that may not work at the same place, may not even know anything about the event necessarily, but as long as they're willing to talk to others, they kind of make this comfort zone for you and start the conversation and break the ice. So it makes it easier sometimes when you are the introvert to bring that extroverted friend along.
If involving someone in a group, for example, you're scaring them, person of interest, okay, as a conversation starter?
A joke is not necessarily a conversation starter. It can be, but sometimes it depends on folks. Sometimes they may not take it as a joke, but I think you'll be able to assess that in the environment. I think you can tell a lot of times just by, you know, the hello of someone. Sometimes people will be like, hey, how are you doing? You know what I mean? Very loud. You know, you can probably joke with them and they're okay. They don't care. But then there's the people that are more introverted that sometimes may struggle because they may be the introvert. Sometimes we look at CEOs and VPs and other people we're trying to network, and because they're the presenter or they're there doesn't mean they want to be there. Some of these folks are introverts, and so we've got to be careful with the jokes and the approach because they are just as scared as you are sometimes.
Do you know if it's okay to attend engineering events if you don't have an engineering background?
Most definitely. So I know, for example, in our ERG, our employee resource group for RTX, one of our global board members is a finance background. But she has attended SHIP for many years, loves going to SHIP. And we have literally gotten stories where her name is Brenda, and they say, I am here because Brenda spent time talking to me and she let me know how great RTX was. And she convinced me this is where I needed to come find a job. So most definitely, I would definitely, and if you are an engineer, I would definitely attend events that are outside of your comfort zone as well. I think in order for you to gain that relationship and that networking and collaborative opportunity is to be able to network outside of that comfort zone, right? You're not going to learn from someone else if you guys are doing the same thing. A way to grow and network and learn is to be able to go outside of our comfort zone into those other upcoming events.
And how do we get information on upcoming events?
So I think one of the things we need to do, you can look at locally. I'm in Texas, so I can tell you about a couple of opportunities, and SHIP is one of them. SHIP has a professional local chapter. American Society for Quality, IEEE. We also have a Hispanic Texas Women's Network that holds events. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. You can look locally at different events, whether it doesn't just have to be internal to school or to work. It could be in your community as well.
Please unmute yourself and ask. Now is the time.
So I have a question, another question. So sometimes we go to this event, we try to be prepared, but really we don't know who else is going there
Mhm.
for the networking. And sometimes we can feel embarrassed, like we don't recognize the leader. I'm like, how do I go to talk to him or her? And then they realize I don't know who they are, and they're kind of like my boss. So how do you approach that?
One of the things I would say is we have to be, we can't be scared to be a little bit transparent, right? We need to be able to not be afraid to say, I don't know, and go to someone and say, hi, my name is so and so, especially when you're looking for those stragglers, the people that have no one else talking to them. Hi, my name is so and so. Who are you? What do you do? And oh, I didn't realize you were so and so, and I think I actually report through your chain of command. Well, nice to meet you. And turn it around in a sense that's like, oh, great. You know what I mean? That's great. I put in a face to the name now that I didn't know I was supposed to. And so I think sometimes it's hard to let people know you don't know, but it's okay to let people know you don't know. And I think that's the whole part of, or whole point of networking almost, is that, hey, we don't know. That's why we're here to learn.
Thank you.
JP Garcia, you have a question. You had your hand raised. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add really quickly, one of the best ways to find events or groups that meet regularly is to use this website called meetup.com. And meetup.com has probably 100,000 different groups like all over the world. So no matter what city you're in, um, there's meetups about technology, there's meetups about sales, there's meetups about all kinds of different information. So if you're looking for opportunities to meet groups like Toast anything, right?
Mhm.
And I live in the Bay Area, so there's a lot of tech stuff going on. And so that's one of the places that I go to look
Mhm.
for possibly like interesting topics that are of interest to my career as an engineer. But
Mhm.
yeah, like if you're in any other field, um, and I've gone to some events that are not even in engineering, but they just sound really interesting, whether it's like futurist stuff or whether it's um yeah, just other random things that
Mhm.
just sound really interesting in our own development. So yeah, I think you should explore that. Meetup.com. And I don't own any stock in meetup.com. I don't know anybody in meetup.com. So it's a really cool place to go find data or
No,
groups.
thank you for sharing. Yeah. Another thing, if you work with RTX, for example, a good way to find others in the area too is in that location. You can go, see who works there. Sometimes you can follow your department, the supply chain. Let's say, for example, if I worked in supply chain, look up other folks in supply chain at that location and reach out to them. Sometimes it's easier to reach out via email or Teams because you don't have to look at the person. So even if they came back and said, hey, I don't want to meet up, then they don't want to meet up, but you don't know what that connection may be. And sometimes when you're not looking at them face to face, it's a little easier in that regard.
Can I add something else, Esther?
Yes.
Somebody that asked about like, what do you do when you go somewhere and you're trying to like, um, and you're not sure when to speak up or meet people? I
Mhm.
think that, like I've gone to a bunch of different networking events and and I'm not really a shy person, but there have been I've been like flabbergasted. I'm just kind of like boom because it's stuff. But when I do talk to students and that are kind of starting to learn how to network, I
Yes.
sometimes will tell them like just experiment, like
Yes.
experiment and try something different
Mhm.
and or try something new and then reflect on what happened, right?
Right.
And then you take what worked and you try that again and you try that again and it's sort of like as a sort of apply a little bit of a scientific model to it where you like, okay, this worked, I'm gonna keep trying that didn't land, so I'm gonna try something a little bit different.
Yes.
um and so and that's the way we're gonna keep learning how to become like sort of better conversation starters or how to start better ways to break the ice. And part of it is just to not be afraid. And I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it's sort of like to take chances, because in a way, what you're doing is you're investing in yourself. And
Correct,
so
it's personal growth.
small investments, and
Mhm.
just try that little by little.
Yeah.
Not be afraid.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Listen, the convention is coming up. You need to have a really good game plan. Before, when we open registration on our website, there are the companies that are attending, universities, if you want to pursue, continue your education. But after you identify what is it that they do and that kind of thing, then you have to research about your internet and then have the game plan. The convention experience is overwhelming. It's overwhelming to me. And I've been working here for 5 years. It's overwhelming. We have almost 10,000 attendees at our convention. So have a good game plan. Don't let those optics interfere with your game plan, but you have to have a solid game plan. What else would you say, Esther?
Definitely. It
Hey,
is really important, especially with the convention coming up, that you do some research and come prepared with what you're interested in, and then leave some time. You don't want to overbook yourself either. I think you want to leave some time to learn about new companies that, hey, do kind of spark your interest, that have something that stick out, that stands out to you, and be able to go to those and have time to just ask any kind of questions. It's free learning time at that point in time. You have the opportunity to learn for free, and not free. I mean, you've already paid, but you're there. You're never going to get the opportunity with that many people and that many companies again until the following year if you go back. And so you got to try to take advantage of what you can when you can. And one of the things to keep in mind when you approach someone at the national convention, it's so many people. So even if it goes sour, you're probably never going to see them again. You know what I mean? And even if it does go sour, the other thing is maybe they'll remember that. And then that's a connection you have. You may look at it as a negative connection, but it's because it went bad. It doesn't necessarily mean it was a negative networking experience.
gotta let it go.
Yeah.
LIG, let it go. I think I also want to just add, I'm not trying to be a mic hog, okay? But I just want to add that I think sometimes when you bring friends, especially at the national convention, when you bring friends with you, it helps to sort of ease the tension or ease the nervousness about talking with corporate reps or even other people. That helps a lot.
Just to piggyback on that, yes, it's nice to bring a friend, but just remember, because when you're a friend, you're just going to keep with each other and not really venture out. So make sure what I would do is I would normally be like, okay, especially if they gave like a bio book, telling you like who's going to be there or people from your area or people around. So I would say, okay, my goal is to meet 20 people today. And I would make notes. Like, this is who these are the people I want to meet, but my total amount of people I want to meet today, my goal is 20 people. And then go from there.
I have a question for Esther. Hey,
Yes.
so how could we use like ChatGPT or AI to help in networking?
So one of the ways you can use is you can ask, how do I meet somebody? And it'll tell you, it'll go through, or what questions should I ask when I'm meeting someone for the first time? It'll go through and explain to you, and you can memorize that. You can memorize it and use it as your conversation starter. It is one way to do it, definitely. However, one of the things you got to be careful with is being genuine, right? You don't want to, part of networking and building a true relationship and building your network is being genuine and being yourself. So while you can use it, you can make sure you add your spin to it and make sure you make it yours and you own it. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to come through. And you don't want to be extremely nervous or have a lot of tension because that's going to come out through as well. And sometimes people are. I think one of the things with me at the convention is it's okay. Let them know. You know what I mean? Maybe the person you're connecting with will say, it's okay. Don't be nervous. It's just me. I'm just like you at the end of the day. Really thinking about yourself as an equal is very good, right? And it goes a long way because we all, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We just have different job responsibilities and different job roles. But at the end of the day, we're all just people trying to get better opportunities, trying to work better together, and trying to grow and learn.
Absolutely. We have one question. What are some key differences to network as a professional versus a student?
So one of the keys is it depends. If you're a professional, you may still be looking for a job like a student, right? And you're looking for another opportunity. So I think a lot of it has to do with asking yourself, what do I want to get out of this? It's not necessarily a different type of networking between a professional and a student. It is still networking at the end. It's what you want to get out of it. One of the things to think about as a student at the national conference, if you are a freshman or a sophomore, maybe your goal is to meet more students because that's building a network. When you guys become seniors and you're both looking for a job and one of you goes and finds a job at Boeing and the other one at RTX, let me tell you, you want to keep building that relationship and that connection. You may need to throw ideas off of each other, and you might think about this patent idea that's great that you got from them initially, and you can roll that up together. So because you're there as a student versus a professional, it depends what you want to get out of it. It's not necessarily a different type of networking. It's just networking and building and learning from it, I believe.
Mhm. Please, we have 7 minutes left. I'll ask your questions.
I saw someone ask, how do I make a decision on how many people I want to network with? Do I assume 10 minutes per connection or 20? Again, quality versus quantity, right? If one connection is going well, be willing to lose 3 others because you really connected with this one. I don't necessarily think you should put a number in mind, but say, hey, I am going to meet one new person a day at least. I am going to build a connection with one person a day. So don't give yourself a time limit, or if you do, make sure you're flexible, right? Don't be constantly looking at your time because that makes it very uncomfortable. Or the person thinks you're not interested. I think you kind of let it go with the flow. If the conversation's not flowing, then I think it's time to say, it was great meeting you, have a great day, and move on to the next person. But if the conversation is growing, then, you can dictate that going back and forth. Again, it's a two-way street, not one person's dictating it more than the other. But be flexible about it.
Hey Esther, this is Mari. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Not that I'm trying to leave Raytheon, but when you're networking, how does it is it okay to say, hey, do you know anybody that works at Lockheed? It's 15 minutes from my house, but that's moving to McKinney. It's a lot further for me. And so
Right.
I want to know if anybody, if you have a connection for me that you would be willing to connect me with or something.
Nothing wrong at all. I think you always have to see, you have to be on the lookout for you. What are you going to get out of this? What do you want to get out of this? So if Lockheed Martin's 10 minutes from your house, I'd start going to LinkedIn and looking for Lockheed Martin employees that I have a connection with. If I'm a program manager now, look for other program managers within there and say, hey, I work at so-and-so. I have this experience. This place is 10 minutes from my house. Do you have openings? They may say, don't, but so-and-so does. You should reach out to so-and-so and so
Right.
forth. So I really think networking is all about what you need to get out of it and what you want to get out of it.
Okay, thank you.
We have 5 minutes left with Esther Casas. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Esther, how many conventions, SHIP conferences have you been to? And can you tell what was your first experience if you actually obtain a job at a convention? What will be your hot list of advice?
Yeah. So I attended as a student way back when. I'm class of 96 from A&M. So it's been a while, but I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know what I needed to do. I regret not being more intentional at the convention and not asking more questions before I got there. Google wasn't huge back then yet, so it wasn't like you can Google something and get more information. But nowadays you can, right? You can look at past conventions. If you go on the SHIP website, you can go to 2023 and you can watch a video, you can look at pictures, you can look at who spoke. And so at that point in time, I wish I would have been more intentional, and I wasn't. So I think it's really important that you're intentional when you attend the conference and take advantage of all the goodness that you have right at your hands. I went back as a professional. I believe the first time I went back as a professional was in 2010, and I was part of a panel, and I was like so impressed and thanking God I wasn't looking for a job at the time, because I thought all these kids are 10 times smarter than I ever was or ever will be. And they were so intentional. They know what they want. And so it was a little intimidating to me as a professional, because I was like, wow, I was very, very impressed. And so the other thing is too that I worked full time and went to school full time, and my grades weren't the best when I was looking for a job. And so I tend to gravitate to those students because there's a lot of companies that put a GPA minimum for talking to students or interviewing students. And my thing is, everyone has a story to tell. Everybody has a story to tell. Tell your story, because people are willing to listen. And more than likely, you're a harder worker than someone who has a 4.0 because you've had to work that much harder. And so to me, it's don't ever doubt yourself, and tell your story. Don't be scared to tell your story. Don't be ashamed to tell your story, because their story can go a long way.
Esther, real quick, I have another question. So I've actually been interested in the SHIP event because I've heard you talk about it so much. Is that something that like I would pay out of pocket, or is there like somewhere, like, can I talk to my boss and say I want to go to this? Is something that, you know, Raytheon pays for? Or like, you know, most of the events I've gone to, they're sponsored, right? And I have
Yes.
also gone to somewhere I have paid out of pocket, but they get expensive.
So Raytheon does send people to the SHIP conference every year. This year we have about 90 people going, both in talent engagement and talent acquisition. So we do workshops throughout it. So Raytheon will pay for your registration, and then your cost center needs to approve your travel and expenses. But it's all vetted ahead of time. So if you get, you know, approved to go, you'll be able to go. And you have to self-nominate is our process. We have a self-nomination process, and I can show you what that is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can talk to you about that. I'm making a note so I don't forget.
Okay, well, we have come to the end of our programming. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, RTX and Esther Casas, for being here and giving us this important information. And please don't forget, convention is coming up. Prepare.
Yes. Thank you all so much. Greatly appreciate it.
Oh, don't leave yet, don't leave yet, don't leave yet. I
Oh.
forgot. Oh, the link for you to,
QR code.
yeah, for you to give us your feedback. Please don't leave yet. Give me just 1 second while I come. Please don't leave. Don't leave. Just give me don't leave, please.
Are you gonna give us a link, Anna, a link to a survey for this event?
Yes.
I am putting the link right here, right now.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks, Esther.
I was
Thank
so
you.
involved in the conversation with all of you. Thank you all for being here. Please give us feedback so that then we can talk to RTX. We will always continue to improve on programming, and please let us know how we can improve that. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Esther Casas and RTX, for being here tonight.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night.